This portion of the John Fredericks Show is brought to you by Hargrave Military Academy. Attend an educational and informative open house event at Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia. For more information, visit online at hargrave.edu. Hargrave Military Academy. Build his future.
Hey, joining us now live from recess, yes, it's congressional recess, is our very own Congressman from the 2nd District of Virginia, Scott Rigell. Congressman, great to have you with us today.
Hey, John. Good morning. It's a little sobering here to come on the show, knowing that you're 6 days into this most worthy, decision that you made there to stop smoking. So, but I commend you for that. That's, of course, the right thing to do. If it makes you irritable, though, that's a little scary.
I'm really grumpy right now. I mean, the first couple of days I got through, and then I think Wednesday, but today's the worst. I mean, because at the 7:30 hour is when I always have a cigarette. I always have that cigarette outside, and so I don't even have them, and so I got to deal with Kenny Johnson here at the studio at WHKT. And then I had this huge candy bar for breakfast, which in and of itself is disgusting, but that got me through it. So,
well, listen, we're all rooting for you, and I do respect you for that decision. It's not an easy one, but I respect you for it.
All right, well, great to have you with us, and that's why this week I'm having all my friends on to help me out.
You go.
Figure if I can get through 8 days and get into next Monday, I'm good to go. Congress is at recess. You were very critical of that. Why?
Well, look, when you opened up with the idea of recess, even the word, John, is just offensive to me. It really is in this context because I've worked hard all of my life. Every Saturday, even as a youngster, we could play ball in the afternoon, but we pretty much had to work for about a half a day at the house. And there was a ball field across from our house, and before we could go out and play, Dad, we worked from about maybe 8 to 12 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always worked hard in my own, private business, and this is just ingrained in me. So here we are going into a full 5 weeks of shutting the lights off in the halls of Congress, and whatever mission we might have in the district, and I've had full days, 8 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. in district. Mm-hmm. Sure, we're working hard in district when we're not in Congress and in session, but the fact is that we have only passed 4 of the 12 appropriations bills that fund the federal government. And I'm speaking of the House of Representatives. This is entirely within our control as Republicans. We set the calendar. The legislative pace on these appropriation bills is not up to Nancy Pelosi. It's not up to Harry Reid. It's not up to the president. It's up to us. And I just could not reconcile our calendar with our progress in passing these bills. When we come back into session in September, we'll have 9 legislative days to address 8 appropriations bills, and it just can't be done. So I expressed this to leadership privately, then to conference, and I've been very vocal about it, and I voted against the rule that provided for this. It's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, but it went nowhere with leadership. Why?
Well, I know why, because they told me. We bantered about it privately and then within conference. And when I mention conference, that's the weekly meeting that Republicans have, and, of course, our Democratic friends have their own. But basically, it was a couple of arguments. One is that if we pass these bills, that our colleagues in the Senate are not going to do anything with them. So, what good does it do, essentially, to pass these? Our the fellows and the women in the Senate won't do anything with them. And I said directly to leadership in conference, because I made the point, and then one of the leaders stood up and came to the microphone. Will the gentleman yield? Will the gentleman yield? I said, well, certainly. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, if we pass them, the Senate won't. I said, we lose the moral high ground when we argue against a hypothetical.
Right.
We can't say, well, we won't do our work because they won't do their work. What a wonderful place it would have been to have passed all 12 and to have a huge press conference with all Republican members saying, here are the literal 12 bills passed. The Senate has not passed one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Look, the American people would have said, wow, look, there's a contrast there.
Right.
We're not in that position, John. It really troubles me.
You can sense your level of frustration, no doubt. Congressman, big question. Everybody knows what a train wreck Obamacare is. It's a broken program. They can't even figure out themselves, the people that have authored it, how to get this thing implemented. That's why they're delaying pieces of it. Some Republicans are saying, hey, now's our chance to just defund this thing and put it in the ash heap of history. But that could result in the threat of shutting the government down. What say you?
The way that you described it, I don't need to pile on. I'll just say I associate myself with how you just described it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a train wreck. Now, stopping it, how we go about it, is the question of the day. For the reasons that I've already mentioned, the appropriations bills and the fact that our own conference has contributed, in my view, irrefutably to the fact that we're going to have a continuing resolution. My view on continuing resolutions generally is well known. I've been voting against them from my earliest days in Congress. It is a tangible expression of my absolute disapproval of this. It hurts our military. It hurts our country to rely on continuing resolutions. So if the whip's office called me today and said, where are you on a continuing resolution, I'd say I'm a no. Now, the idea of making this contingent upon 100% funding of the health care law, here's my concern with this, is that so nothing in between absolute defunding is going to get us through some funding mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
I am concerned about this because, if we can't say, look, what if we got 80% of it defunded? What if we could, through negotiations, get 90% of it? Mm-hmm. We wouldn't accept that. That is, I think, the kind of positioning where you say, unless we get 100%, we are putting our name on a document that says to the American people in your district, I suppose, that unless I get 100%, then I will not vote for any funding of any part of the government whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Well, any responsible leader is going to have to say, okay, well, let's look at the consequences of that path. What if we go down that path? The latest times I went through this exercise, payment of our men and women in uniform is not at some type of theoretical risk. It is at risk. I mean, one just has to be really sober about what it means. And it is not weakness on my part or anyone else who's troubled by this. I'd like to approach this with the mindset of, can we, in the reality in which we operate, knowing that the president would veto it, even if we could get it through, and of course you'd never get it through the Senate, I think that we can make substantive progress in defunding the bill, but I don't know that having this, it's 100% or nothing approach is really going to advance our cause, John. That's where I'm at right now.
I think you make a lot of sense because, look, I'm opposed to any of these things that there's a litmus test or you have to be in or out or sign documents. That's why I would never encourage anybody to sign anything from Grover, Norquist, or anything else because you just don't know what's going to happen out there. And one of the issues politically is that, look, I went through this in 95. I was right there, and I saw how the media vilified Newt Gingrich, who was really trying to do the right thing. Now, I'm biased because I was covering him, and I believed in what he was trying to do at the time. But, I saw that. My fear with this is Obama changes the argument from Obamacare is a disaster that can't get implemented because it doesn't make any sense for people to look at the Republicans and now they're going to shut the government down. And I think if you shift the argument, you lose.
John, I have vivid memories of the Republican primary for president. All of the candidates up there, and pretty much everybody was saying, if you got a 10-to-1 reduction of mandatory spending to a $1 of revenue increase, 20. I mean, it got to where it was almost absurd because every one of our candidates was, running so hard to the right. They said, look, no, it doesn't matter. So you could get to some theoretical, hypothetical 50 to 1, 100 to 1 expense reduction and mandatory spending, which we must do for $1 of revenue. And our position is we wouldn't take that. Let me give you an example with the Affordable Care Act. What if we could negotiate something that, we kept pre-existing conditions, for example,
right,
but we removed everything else? Are we saying we wouldn't take that?
Right.
I mean, this is why, to your point, when a member locks onto a document that says, unless it's 100% defunded, I will vote no. Well, you got nowhere to go.
Exactly.
There's no negotiation. There's no room to sit down with Democrats who in their deepest conviction believe this is the right thing to do, and they control the Senate and they control the White House. And we have this divided government, and both by institution, the branches of government, and then we've got it divided by party. And we've got to learn to navigate through this, and it doesn't mean that we are weak or that we're waffling on this critical issue. It's a question of strategy. So I don't yield to my friends who might sign on to something like that they are more committed to stopping the train wreck than I am. It's simply a question of strategy. And I'm willing to take a difficult position and
all right, I think
handle some bumpy, a bumpy ride if I think it's going to get us to the right place.
I think you got this nailed, Congressman. We're up against the clock. I'm out of time. This is the John Fredericks Show. Hey, you want more information? Go to rigell.house.gov, rigell.house.gov. Thank you, Congressman. We got to go.
All right, thanks. Bye.